Hello everyone, this is AussieSelect and welcome back to another Australian federal politics video. Welcome to all my new subscribers. It seems that my last video, the YouTube algorithm gave it a big go. So hello everybody, and today we are going to be looking at the new MRP survey by Redbridge. I believe the way it works is it polls certain seats or certain people and then extrapolates the results based on demographics in other seats. And what it showed in May was that there was a high possibility of Labor retaining majority government. There wasn't much change from the last federal election, but what has come since then is that the Labor Party are struggling a little bit, and it looks more like minority government territory. This is a tweet by the head of Redbridge, Kos Samaras, who is a former Labor Party strategist, and he teamed up with a Liberal Party strategist to make this Redbridge. So he's showing here a couple of differences between seat results back in May and now. The seats in the outer suburbs and regions are seeing the biggest difference. So this is a number of seats that he has listed as some changes from the May 2024, but we will go through every seat that there is some kind of like story to tell and do some analysis, and I will go back to my map here and I will show the changes from the last election on my map. And if you notice on my map, the Labor Party has one less seat than it currently has. That was Higgins, that is gone. And then when it comes to independents, there's a couple more because we've got Clare and Monash with some independents representing it. So let's start with the ACT. Pretty status quo result. Greens up against the coalition in Canberra. New South Wales is where things start to get interesting. So we have here Bennelong, too close to call. The coalition is actually ahead, 51-49, but for now we are just going to put that as a too close to call. Cowper as an other gain, so that is a independent, most likely the same independent that ran last election and was close to winning the seat. Dobell, which is also too close to call, that one actually has the Labor Party ahead, which is actually a pretty big surprise. I didn't actually think Dobell was necessarily on the agenda. I don't think I really mentioned that at all last video. Hughes, actually a coalition seat that they won at the last election, 57-43. I can't remember if the redistribution actually changed anything. I should note that this new survey takes in the new redistributions, but it does have in common being a outer suburban seat with the seats that are also sort of going towards the coalition as well. So yeah, interesting one there, Hughes. And then I'll also put Hunter as too close to call. This one has the Labor Party slightly ahead as well. I will also mention before we go on, Clare up here has other on 44, not quite. Andrew G winning back his seat, and then also Bradfield, which we did discuss last video as a possible Teal pickup. It doesn't have the Teal quite making the mark that it's looking for, and then Barara, there's not even any sign of any independent candidate there before. But what I have been told about these MRPs is that it's harder to poll sort of independents and the Greens, like anyone other than the Labor and the coalition. It's harder to sort of make results for that. So all of these sort of independent and Greens results we should probably take with a grain of salt. In fact, this whole MRP we should probably take with a grain of salt. You know, this is not, again, like this massive poll of every single, like tons of thousands of people in every seat. It's a poll which has used some data and demographics to extrapolate things. So definitely take this with a grain of salt. But we will look at this because I think it does show the way things are going. So McKellar is an other retain. And then we have Patterson as a coalition gain, which is, I did mention Patterson last video as something that something we should watch, and something that the coalition will be targeting. But yeah, it is interesting to actually see it as a coalition gain here. And then we have Reid, Labour retain. Richmond actually as probably a Greens versus Labour contest, but they haven't done that on here. And we've got Robertson, which is too close to call. Wentworth and Warringah will be other retain. Watson, there's no real sign of the independent there. Werriwa, it's a bit closer, but it's not really like a big deal. And then, yeah, that's it for New South Wales. So going back to the map, what I can notice about New South Wales is that quite a few of the seats are in a similar-ish kind of location, and that is sort of the, I guess, outer Newcastle area. So down here in Dovell, Robertson, and then Patterson, and then Hunter. So that is probably, I would say, would be where the Labour Party would be mostly on the defence in that area. And I'm not exactly sure why that area is swinging so hard to the coalition, but I guess it's probably things like mortgage stress, and maybe those people are particularly riled up by anti-immigration sentiment. I don't really know. But yeah, Hughes is very interesting. I mean, all of these results on this MRP could just be noise. But yeah, Hughes, perhaps there's a change in demographic there. Like Banks is like quite safe for the coalition, so I don't know. So we will move forward, and then we'll get to the Northern Territory, which has Lingiari going to the coalition, but Solomon remaining pretty firm with Labour. As I mentioned last video, there will be a redistribution, so this will probably even up a bit if this redistribution happens before the next election. And then we go on to Queensland, where Labour seem to be pretty safe in Blair. The Greens are actually maintaining Brisbane this time. I believe in the previous poll, the Greens were losing Brisbane. Coalition is fine in Dixon, which I sort of predicted. And then Ford, which again is it's sort of an interesting result, sort of similar to Hughes, where this outer suburban seat has an interesting result. So Ford was 54-45 last election, so it is about a 3% swing to Labour, which, again, the only reason it's remarkable is that it's going against the grain here. And once again, I guess that the explanation can be demographic change. Ford is in sort of southern Brisbane, and maybe people are moving from sort of Rankin area, which is traditionally Labour, down further south. I'm not exactly sure. There are some actually pretty high other percentages in all of these kind of Queensland seats, which I guess isn't really a surprise because One Nation are doing pretty well. Kennedy, other retain. Nothing too remarkable here, except that here in Maranoa we have a other vote of 30%, which sort of implies that there might be a like a One Nation versus coalition contest there. Like I'm not really sure. I think there was actually a similar thing. If we go up here in line, also there's like an other 30%, so I'm not exactly sure. There wasn't really like a strong third-party contest in line last election, so maybe they know something that I don't know. Morton, there's no real sign of like a strong Greens challenge, and Ryan is actually saying that the coalition actually could pick this one up, which, unlike Brisbane, was something that people had been talking about a bit more because of there being a swing against the Greens to the coalition at the Brisbane City Council. But it seems that Queensland is mostly status quo. I'll put a too close to call for Ward there as well. So we'll go on to SA, which is, it looks like completely status quo result. Sturt is still kind of close. The coalition only just won Sturt last time. I honestly think, especially after seeing this MRP, Sturt is possibly the most likely pickup for the Labour Party in the country, because I believe that the Labour Party are actually doing very well in South Australia on a state level at the moment, according to recent polls. There's also sort of a strong third-party vote in Barker, Grey, and Mayo, obviously, where Rebecca Sharkey is doing well. And also Spence. I think One Nation did sort of quite well last election there. But yeah, very, very weird stuff, these results. Going on to Tasmania, we have the coalition gain of Lions, which is something that we discussed was possibly going to happen. So Victoria, we have Aston as a coalition gain. We have Bruce as a too close to call. We have Casey as the too close to call, which again is a coalition seat. We have Chisholm as a too close to call, which is not one I discussed last video. And then we have Cooper as a Greens contest where they're not particularly doing amazing. Goldstein as a coalition gain. We have Indi as another retain. We have Kooyong as an other retain, which is the seat which is mostly absorbed. Higgins, which a lot of people were suggesting could go back to the coalition. And then we have McEwen as a too close to call, which is a seat that I gave to the coalition, which does have the coalition slightly ahead on this. And then we have Wannon as a too close to call against a independent. And then we have Wills with the Greens not in sight at all. And then we also have Deacon and Menzies with both of them on 53-47 to the coalition, which is interesting because both seats after the redistribution have sort of become like notional 50-50, possibly even like notional Labour seats. So that could be seen as a coalition pickup if you look at it like that. So I gave Monash back to the coalition because that's what it is predicting, although it did have the other vote quite high there. This is the results that it gives for Victoria. Quick editor's note here, I actually forgot to give Goldstein to the coalition here, so for the rest of the video, the coalition actually have one less seat than they're supposed to, and the independent has one more. So just take note of that. And if you'll note, the biggest changes are in, it looks like Eastern Melbourne and sort of regional Victoria, but in two of these cases, which is Casey and Wannon, the coalition are actually going backwards. Casey, again, I feel like it's a similar situation to Hughes and Ford, where there's been some demographic change because of the ever-changing nature of people moving everywhere, and that's why those seats are closer. Bruce is also an interesting one because this is a traditionally Labour seat, although it is on the east of Melbourne, so that's why I'm saying that this is sort of the area that probably the Labour Party looking at the most. But yeah, there's no sign of the Greens doing quite well, but that could just be because these MRP are not the best at figuring out things for third parties. So we'll move forward to WA, where Bullwinkle, which is the brand new seat, is too close to call, and Curtin is a coalition gain from an independent, and then I believe Tangney is also too close to call. And with Bullwinkle, in that case, that was a Labour seat. So this is the results that it gives, the MRP survey. I've already given that my main takeaways are Labour needs to really look at this sort of like Central Coast area and the Hunter region, and then Eastern Melbourne, and then a couple of random seats like Bennelong, which we have talked about after the redistribution. It gives this to the coalition, and then obviously Lions, Lingiari, and Tangney. And then independents are apparently in trouble in Curtin and Goldstein. So what we're going to do now is that in every seat, I'm going to be giving all of these seats to the coalition and see how they do. So I'm going to give Hunter, I'm going to give Ford, I'm going to give Ryan, I'm going to give Chisholm, I'm going to do Bruce, I'm going to give Casey, I'm going to do McEwen, I'm going to do Wannon, I'm going to do Tangney, I'm going to do Bullwinkle, I'm going to do Robertson, Dobell, Hughes. Oh, and Bennelong. So this puts the coalition up to 72 seats, which is again not enough for majority government. They need 4 more. So even if we give everything to the coalition, they still can't get there. Okay, again, so editor note, I did not give Goldstein to the coalition, but once again, there's still 3 off, so the point still stands. And this is why I said in my other video that a majority coalition government does not look likely, and I had to give every single seat to the coalition, except for Goldstein, but they're still only on 73. I believe that probably half of those will go to Labour. I'm not sure exactly which ones. I did give my prediction last time. Some after that MRP survey, I might feel is more likely to swing one way or another. For example, Patterson, that's a pretty strong result, 54-46 for the coalition. That was a seat that I was looking at. So I would think that maybe that seat would be more likely to go to the coalition. But I still don't think that the coalition are looking at more seats than Labour. It absolutely is a chance, but majority coalition government, I don't think it's happening. My general vibe about this upcoming election is that Labour are at their weakest point at the moment. So if we look at polls, it looks like things are narrowing and are continuing to narrow as time goes by. I don't believe this narrowing will necessarily continue. I think there's a chance that this narrowing will ease and Labour could even regain ground. I think the biggest thing at the moment that Labour are looking for is an interest rate cut. That is going to be the thing which signals that the Labour Party are quote unquote fixing things. A lot of people, first home buyers, bought back in 2021, and with high interest rates, their mortgages are a lot more than when they bought the house, most of them. And I don't know if Labour can really recover if things get worse from here economically. It's all to do with the economy. That's all the reason why the Labour Party is struggling. You can blame it on whatever you like, immigration, but until the economy gets better, the Labour Party will not start improving. It doesn't matter if you think that nuclear power is a dumb idea or not, people are still punishing the Labour Party for the economy. So if I give all the seats that are 51-49 to their respective winners, and then I give both of the 50-50 seats to Labour, this is the result we end up with. If I put the 50-50 seats in the nobody column, which is Tangney and Bullwinkle, Labour are still ahead. So my thoughts are that this MRP is not looking great for Labour, and Labour can only hope that they're at their weakest point at the moment and are going to improve. They could still form government on these amount of seats. It will be difficult for them, but they could still do it. And it would give them a bit of an edge against the coalition still. But this is not a good look for them. And I would be doubting Albanese's performance as Prime Minister, going from a majority government to a result like this in one term where they've lost quite a lot of ground. This result also has Casey going to the Labour Party, which is sort of like an interesting result. So I will do another federal politics video once all the redistributions are done, just to do some final comments on that. But I have been meaning to do a Queensland state video for months and months and months. So that will be coming very soon. That will be next on the channel. Thank you everybody for watching this video. This has been Aussie's Elect. Goodbye.